All right. Good morning, everyone. Week 6 concluding. It is a pleasure to be here with you on this Friday for our weekly check-in. I'm very thrilled today to be joined by Senators Washington, Harris, Jackson, and Vice Chair Waldstreicher. The bills that they'll be talking or discussing today in just a moment are just a part of our agenda to focus on protecting Marylanders against the harmful effects of what we've seen from this lawless Trump administration. Before we get there, just want to make it clear, we've had a really great week in the Senate. We've done some really important work to advance legislation that's promoted what we've said from the beginning: growth, affordability, and of course, protecting against the Trump administration. We were pleased to join the Speaker and the Governor and others to sign emergency legislation into law that banned the 287G agreements between our local law enforcement and ICE. As we've said many times, the lawless activities of ICE across the country, and particularly in Maryland, is not something that we can be partners with. As I said in my remarks on Tuesday, trust and credibility between communities and law enforcement will continue to be our top priority. And we cannot partner with a federal agency that's acting the way that ICE has over the last year. As for the business of the Senate, during the past week, we had a number of progressive bills passed our chamber, and in fact, many of those progressive bills were passed unanimously. Just a few of them: Senate Bill 221 protected against child pornography possession. This bill expanded definitions and updated punishments in Maryland code, something that we know that too many young people, given social media and access to the internet, are too fraught with too much pain and possibility for pain. And so this is a crime that must be protected against here in the state of Maryland. We also had Senate Bill 249, which required existing traditional tobacco licenses to obtain a specific separate license for selling electronic smoking devices. What I hear from young people, including my own kids, is that these electronic vape devices are proliferating across young people and across the state, particularly in our high schools. And so this will be one more tool in the toolbox to make sure that these vapes do not get in the hands of young people. We know that the proliferation of electronic smoking devices is something that must be halted. Finally, Senate Bill 287 is one of our economic development bills, a part of our larger package. It allows local government entities to designate blighted areas as development districts, and then a new financing tool to fund development projects by capturing the future increases of all properties in an area. This is a new tool that has been used in other parts of the country that we hopefully will be able to utilize here in Maryland. Together, all of these bills reflect our commitment to protecting the minors in Maryland, strengthening our public health systems, and investing in the long-term economic growth of our communities. Finally, one quick note: today is our annual Green Day bag in the Senate, so we're looking forward to the appointment secretary joining us so that we have the official executive appointments coming our way. I want to thank each of you for your continued coverage of the session, and would like to hand it over to Senator Mary Washington.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
First of all, I just want to express my deep appreciation for the press and really recognizing that the work and the service that you do and your partnership in maintaining our democracy and informing our constituents. So just know that even though I'm, not a great writer, but I really enjoy and think it's important that we recognize that we're partners in all this. So good morning and thank you, President Ferguson. I represent the 43rd Legislative District, that is Baltimore City and Baltimore County, the northeast, up to, so basically it goes from North Avenue to 695 if you're going up Greenmount or York Road. I'm proud to have been asked and to work on the issues around foster care. It's Senate Bill 604, adoption, foster care, and public services. And this bill is designed to push back against Trump assaults on our families and on the ability of our foster youth to be able to be placed in loving homes. Maryland has been a long leader, as you know, in protecting the rights and dignities of all families. And we know that Senate Bill 604 will ensure that we remain one. The core protections that are in this bill are not new. They're currently exist in our regulations. So if you go into Comar, we are already operating this way and have for years. We are reaffirming those by putting these protections in Maryland law. statute. So Maryland regulations and placement agencies have long prohibited, otherwise we've prohibited placement agencies from denying adopted parent applications based on sexual orientation, race, national origin, or family status. So you can't deny anyone's application. It's still up to the agency to make sure that the individuals meet their specific requirements, but you cannot deny the application. It codifies these protections into statute. It also, however, adds gender identity, and that's aligning Maryland adoptive placement standards with our already fairness and rights framework that we have in our state. So beyond adoption, 604 extends the same principles to foster care and to the provision of public services more broadly. So it ensures that any state-funded agency that employees cannot deny services on the basis of these protected identities. It's also worth noting that the bill does not change, nor does it author existing religious exemptions. So we have long allowed and value that principle in our state, and so this bill does nothing to change that. Nor does it change, as I said on the onset, the really rigorous vetting process, because the placement of already traumatized children is really a very delicate and sensitive topic, and we have to make a process. And so we know that our social workers, our placement agencies really take that responsibility seriously. Project 2025 has really specifically called for the repeal under federal regulations of the current prohibitions against discrimination. So we are, as Maryland, are stepping forward, going ahead and saying that we are clearly not allowing for there to be discrimination in these spaces. By moving forward, we will ensure that no federal rollbacks will strip away Maryland's families. When Washington is stepping on us, when they are rolling back, Maryland must step up. Every child deserves a family. Every qualified family deserves a fair chance to parent and to provide a loving home. Senate Bill 604 ensures that we can make that promise and hold that promise that every child and every family in our state can be protected under our laws, if not the federal government. Thank you. And next, you will hear from my colleague, Carl Jackson.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, President Ferguson. Again, good morning to my colleagues. My name is Senator Carl Jackson, and I represent Maryland's District 8 located in Baltimore County. President Trump's Project 2025 plan has caused massive destruction on regulations that protect Maryland consumers. Part of that plan aims to abolish the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, and transfer CFPB's responsibilities and functions concerning consumer protections to other federal banking regulators. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was created after the 2008 financial collapse to regulate risky financial behaviors that created the crisis that led to millions of people losing their homes due to foreclosure. The CFPB is responsible for implementing and enforcing a wide range of federal consumer protection laws, collecting consumer complaints related to financial products and services. CFPB is structured as an independent bureau within the Federal Reserve and is funded outside of the normal congressional appropriations process. It serves as a single independent agency that focuses on consumer protection and prioritizes transparency so that consumers of financial products can make financially informed decisions. It also ensures proper regulation of nationally chartered banks and handles consumer protection violations so that financial instruments like mortgages and other consumer loans are founded in secure underwriting practices and to keep financial institutions accountable. To date, the CFPB has recovered over $21 billion for consumers who have been impacted by fraud and unfair trade practices. So far, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act significantly reduced funding for CFPB. This can hinder the CFPB's ability to regulate financial institutions under strict funding and workforce capacity limits. This is designed to create fear and allow unlawful leniency towards financial institutions. Marylanders' financial future is at stake. Maryland is proud to have a robust Maryland is proud to have robust consumer protection practices through the Office of the Attorney General Consumer Protection Division, CPD, the Office and Office of Financial Regulation, OFR. Unfortunately, the state has limited authority to regulate nationally chartered banks. That is why I am proud to sponsor SB 696, a bill which will serve as a potential solution to the abolishment of CFPB. The bill requires the Office of Financial Regulation to establish and maintain a database for complaints for consumers that are filed against financial institutions for unfair, deceptive, or abusive practices, and requires the office to publish an analysis of complaints quarterly to keep track of different types of complaints. If the CFPB's complaints database stops being operational or being updated, establishing Maryland's Consumer Complaints Database for Maryland residents ensures that financial institutions are held accountable and will help identify unfair, deceptive, and abusive financial practices against Maryland residents. I look forward to working with my colleague to pass this important piece of legislation. Thank you for your time. And up next, I would like to welcome my colleague, Senator Kevin Harris.
Appreciate that, Senator Jackson. Great morning to all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Senate President, for this opportunity to share one of these bills that I believe is vital. I want to thank my colleagues here who are fighting every day to ensure that we are doing what we need to do best for the state of Maryland. Senator Kevin M. Harris served the Legislative District 27, which is the southern portion of Prince George's, northern part of Charles, and about 70% of Calvert County. I want to take this opportunity to discuss why am I sponsoring Senate Bill 932. This bill requires a person operating a social media platform to publicly display the general geographic location of their account to state users of the social media platform. During the age of social media, it has become increasingly evident that in order to increase platform engagement, social media companies continue to take advantage of and manipulate users through the algorithm that keeps users hooked. The algorithm is designed to be addictive, presenting users with divisive, polarizing, and often extreme content. At the same time, we know that a large portion of the most extreme social media posts are from pages that are not located within the United States. They are really international actors looking to profit from engagement at the cost of the public trust and the democratic stability in our country. A perfect example of this is the content was the aftermath of the murder of Charlie Kirk. Social media sites elevated the most extreme opinions from both sides of the political spectrum. This divisiveness drives people away from each other, and it creates division that feeds insurmountable not only in our neighborhoods and communities, but also in our society as a whole. Yes, every person has the right to the First Amendment in expressing their belief, but we can at least provide transparency for Mariners as to whether the account they are engaging with is located within the United States so they can better assess whether the content is in good faith or not. I believe the crux of this bill is transparency. We want to protect trust and credibility in Maryland in order to prevent the spread of disinformation and fear in our communities. In closing, I know there'll be questions later, but I want to finish with this sentiment. We want to protect the middle ground and bring Americans together, Democrats and Republicans alike, because at the end of the day, we are all neighbors, family members, and friends. With that, I would like to turn it over to Senator Wallstrike.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Waldstreicher. It's my honor to serve as the Vice Chair of the Judicial Proceedings. Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity this morning. As the weather has turned warmer, I've been doing what I do, which is knock on the doors of my neighbors and constituents. And I hear from them three things. They want us to address the affordability crisis here in Maryland. They want us to grow the economy so we can continue to invest in programs that benefit our community. And they want us to push back on a lawless Trump administration. And in the Judicial Proceedings Committee, we're going to have a lot of responsibility for that third part. We've already acted with regards to 287G, but I wanted to feature a bill today that addresses the idea of pushing back on a federal government that is intent on violating the constitutional rights of Marylanders. I've introduced Senate Bill 346. This bill is based on an idea that was promulgated in the 1980s that states have a right to uphold the constitutional rights of their residents vis-a-vis the federal government. That idea in legal circles has now become mainstream. Law professors call this idea Converse 1983. Judges call this idea state-level Bivens, but we've introduced it here in Maryland as the No Kings Act of 2026. The No Kings Act allows Maryland residents to sue federal officials in Maryland court for violations of constitutional rights that occur in Maryland. Illinois has already passed a version of this bill. The California Senate has just passed this bill, and it is likely to pass that assembly as well. Governor Hochul announced that it is among her top priorities in New York, and Governor Moore here in Maryland referenced the idea in his State of the State. Today, the Judiciary Committee of the House of Delegates will integrate this idea into their digital unmasking legislation. My hope is that here in the Senate, we can move that bill forward as well. Marylanders deserve a venue by which they can vindicate their constitutional rights when it comes to the acts of this federal government. The No Kings Act provides that opportunity. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the President for questions.
Well, thank you all. What you just heard were 4 specific policies that the Maryland Senate is pursuing amongst hundreds of others, honestly, to stand up to an administration at the federal level that is violating Marylanders' rights well too often. And there are specific policies that we can engage in order to push back, and that's exactly what we're doing. Open up for questions.
For Senator Harris, I wanted to ask a little bit more about the social media bill and kind of where Maryland's authority is to require this disclosure from social media.
Well, so that's what we'll be working through when we get to the time to work through this bill to figure out how we make sure we're doing things the right way here in the state of Maryland. I know a lot of people may have questions how we're going to make this happen, how we're going to integrate this, how we're going to make sure that we're keeping Mariners safe. We're going to work through all those sequence when we get through the bill and continue to develop this throughout the next couple of weeks.
I want to ask you something about, this is a city-specific issue.
Please.
But has statewide implications. Recently, there were 2 kids who were arrested while wearing ankle monitors involved in a stolen car and then potentially hitting a police officer in the city as well. Does it concern you at all that we're back in the same situation, raising questions about young people already on ankle monitors under the supervision of DJS who are out in the middle of the night involved in this type of activity? And the question is, who's watching these young people who are supposed to be under the supervision already? Are you concerned at all that DJS is still not doing enough to protect these young people?
Yeah, I think for the specific individuals that are involved, I don't know the individual cases, so it's hard to speak towards broader trends without knowing the specifics of the case. What I will say is, from the general view, of course it's concerning, right? No 14-year-old, I think it was 3 14-year-olds had stolen a car, were put in a horrific situation. Of course, this cannot happen. It's unlawful. It's horrible for society. It's horrible for the individual kids. The ankle monitors that were on is an indication that something else had previously happened that was not all 3 individuals. At the end of the day, what we need is real accountability and real rehabilitation. And I think what we've seen far too often is that our system has not provided the right supports to both balance the accountability of holding young people accountable when they break the law with real rehabilitation. I mean, these are 14-year-old kids. I've got a 13-year-old son. Kids make bad decisions. I made bad decisions. And the key here is to provide the right supports and rehabilitation to make sure that that behavior stops. Obviously, it didn't work in this case because those young people engaged in bad behavior following this. I think we are trying to take a comprehensive look at the system to understand where are the biggest gaps, where are we seeing objective evidence that things are not working. Obviously, we're going to have bad situations because unfortunately we have too many young people that that have, frankly, grown up in very challenging situations, and that if we don't deal with that along with the accountability, then we're just going to continue to see this cycle. And so the key here is really balancing both that accountability with real rehabilitation in a timely manner so that it impacts that young brain in a way that changes behavior.
This has been going on for years. We've had the same conversation year after year, secretary after secretary, though. At what point will you or the legislature step in and say enough is enough?
I mean, I think we are seeing progress. I think the new secretary, the interim secretary who's up for appointment this year, has significantly improved the relationship of the department, has increased people's confidence about where the department is headed. In any large state agency, it takes time. I think what we wanted to hear was the vision of how someone approaches the work. We are seeing a reduction. Now, one bad incident is horrible, right? We don't want any incidents. The challenge is we can't take one singular incident and say that the whole system is broken. We have to really look at the data to make sure that we're evaluating and appreciating the progress that has been shown to occur over the last year, and making strategic and thoughtful decisions to give the right tools for that real balance of accountability with rehabilitation.
Mr. President, and actually I'd be happy to hear from any of the senators on this question. Big picture, you're talking today about response to what you're calling a lawless Trump administration with these bills that have moved already through the House, or through the Senate, sorry. But at the same time, Vice Chair Waldstreicher talked about affordability as something he hears from constituents. I'm sure you all are. How are you balancing the needs of Marylanders at home versus this response to the Trump administration? Is there a chance you're overly focused on the Trump administration?
I will tell you, I mean, I think even from what Senator Waldstreicher said, we are talking about three core priorities, and we have said it over and over again that we have to grow our economy, and we are focused on that. We have got to make Maryland more affordable with energy, housing, and healthcare, and we are focusing on that. Today, we focused specifically on bills that are on the Trump administration, but there is a full package of priorities that we know Marylanders are talking about. Today's bills that were specific to where we're focused in on protecting against the federal administration, because frankly, that's where Maryland families are feeling. I mean, when they're sitting around the dinner table, they're looking at the nightly news and saying, this is crazy. This is not the America that we thought that we were in. And so it is important that we demonstrate clearly and with tangible, actual policies that we are standing up to an administration that's taking us down a path that I think America will have a hard time recovering from if we don't stop it. Anybody else want to jump in? Please, jump in.
Thank you for that question. As a member of the Education, Energy, Environment Committee, my colleague and I, we're absolutely focused on energy affordability. One of the interesting and good things about this job is that we can walk and chew gum and ride the bike and greet kindergartners that want to learn about how government works. We are doing these all at the same time because we must. We have constituents that are deathly afraid. I have constituents that call and they're just worried about their very basic lives. Nonprofits that have provided services for decades to support our fight against poverty, just being zero funded. And so we're addressing that. We're addressing in our committee, understanding that the Trump administration is pulling back on federal protections. So there are a lot of things that we relied on the federal government to provide the support and the opportunity for regress. That's not going to be there. Our committee passed, and the legislature passed, our Maryland Voting Rights Act to allow there to be protection in our local Maryland elections. So we are all doing that, and you all are a part of shaping that narrative of helping to understand that we are doing lots of things, even though CNN and Twitter and all that are focused on the tweets. So, thanks.
Mr. President, recently the Baltimore City Liquor Board decided to only have their agents working during the daytime. Can you cite your concerns to those and any response to the letter that you sent the chairman?
Certainly, yes. So I've had a conversation with the executive director of the liquor board ahead of sending the letter. The schedule was changed to move inspector schedules just to Monday through Friday through the daytime. Obviously, what we know is that with any type of liquor regulation is always about balance. We have to protect communities, and we have to have establishments that people want to participate in, and they have to be operated safely. What we also know is that a lot of the biggest challenges happen in the evening, in that 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. timeframe, which is why, from my perspective and from a number of other 46 district members' perspectives, having inspectors available in that 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is necessary. The executive director brought up fair points that his inspectors felt fearful that they would be in situations at night or called to go to certain places where they were in fear and did not have, they're not law enforcement officers, they're civil regulatory inspectors. And so if the right resources are not provided to partner with the sheriff's office or the BPD, the inspectors were concerned for their safety. And so I think that's the issue that we're gonna have to try to navigate here. I believe there's an openness to having a conversation. There's already been some adjustments to ask for volunteers to serve in those evening hours. We'll get to a better place, but we can't avoid inspections after 10 p.m.
Senate President, hi. I have 4 questions for you about redistricting, well, 3, and then something that one of your senators said about you that I think you deserve a chance to respond to. The first one's about the public pressure campaign. We had Hakeem Jeffries and Eric Holder out here talking directly about this. We had Westmore all over national media, and that was just this week, and this is going on for months. The public pressure campaign is unlike anything I have seen in my 20 years covering Maryland. Can you comment on the methods used and whether they have impacted your willingness to reconsider?
Look, I think everybody is in full agreement. The reason that the pressure has been so high is because everyone is so concerned about what this lawless Trump administration is doing. There are deep concerns about the future of this country and what Maryland's role is in that conversation. It is because of this that we have had concerns about moving forward with redistricting, because what we cannot do is provide Donald Trump another member of Congress from the state of Maryland. That's the fundamental issue here and where the difference is. And so, at the end of the day, it is a legal interpretation and a sincere, I'll speak for myself, sincere and full belief that the map that we have today is our best option for fighting against this Trump administration. And so, I think that among a majority member of caucus members who have been through this experience, when we tried to move forward a map in 21 that was thrown out by the Maryland state courts, we've experienced what that's like. And so I think that has led the conversation. It doesn't mean that we don't understand why people feel so strongly. It's that we have to deliver on ways to protect Marylanders.
The last thing I was going to ask you about is something that that Arthur Ellis had said to me in an interview, but you just kind of referenced it. He said that when he brought this up in caucus, there was no debate, no vote, and that, quote, "We've never had a debate on the issues, not even in the back room." He also criticized you as thinking that you're smarter than Jamie Raskin and Brian Frosh and Hakeem Jeffries and Eric Holder, who have all made the argument that this could withstand public scrutiny, and his quote was, "One man has poisoned the well with his dime school law analysis." I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to that.
Sure. Look, I don't discuss the conversations that we have as a caucus. It's for open discussion. I disagree with his assessment. I think there have been many conversations amongst members about this issue and where things stand and the concerns legally and the various legal analyses. I would say it's not my legal analysis. At the end of the day, we rely on an attorney general who is duly elected by the people of Maryland to provide legal analysis about how we should move forward and the likelihood of various scenarios. And so the legal analysis that has been the basis of this opinion is largely informed almost entirely by the Attorney General, who has outlined the various concerns of what could happen in this uncertain territory. What we know to be the case, this is not an analysis, this is just sheer fact, is that given the timeline of where things stand, the window of opportunity had closed. It takes at least 3 to 4 months to litigate any case. If we cannot close an election cycle for the next 3 to 4 months, that window is already closed, and we're seeing that litigation play out in other states. We also know that we did move forward a map in 21. And based on information and from those same individuals, from calls and discussions from who I have a great deal of respect for, Congressman Raskin and Congressman Hoyer, and then Attorney General Frosch, we were told that the legal analysis was sound. We dotted all the I's, we crossed all the T's, we passed a map in 21, and a state court threw it out. And in 5 days, we had to redo a map and submit it and negotiate with the governor. That's where we stand today. And so we've been through that experience in the legislature. Maps are a state responsibility. And so I have, again, a great deal of respect for the varying opinions and legal analyses out there. At the end of the day, this is about making sure that we are in the best possible position in Maryland to fight back against an administration with tangible policies for Maryland families to truly protect them against what is happening.
If there aren't the votes to pass a map, why not just take a vote and put everybody on record on where they think about this? Why not just take a vote?
Well, for the umpteenth time, in the Senate, we generally do not bring things to the floor that don't have the votes to pass. Unlike the House, we have a different set of rules with filibusters and cloture, and so we have a different structure for how debate happens. That's one. Two, there's a legal concern that the doctrine of latches, which protects Maryland right now under our current map, is a defense that the state can use if somebody attacks our current map. Right now, that 7-1 map that we have today could be challenged by anyone, and the legal standard by the Battaglia Court could be applied to the 7-1 map. But because we have the doctrine of latches, we have a defense to say, you've already accepted elections under this map, you can't challenge it now. The issue is you undermine the doctrine of latches with each public step that happens to change an existing map. And so if you move to change something, you can't then say, wait a second, you can't challenge it because you're already changing it. And so each vote, each public step undermines the doctrine of latches, which is one of the legal reasons why it makes sense to not move forward. And then finally, we have to focus and prioritize. We've said this over and over. We know there are things that we can do to protect against the Trump administration. We know despite what's happening, we have to grow. We know despite what's happening, we have to make things more affordable for Maryland families on energy, in their health care, and in housing. And so we have to pursue those policies that we know we can absolutely move forward without question to protect Maryland families, and that's what we're going to prioritize.
And then this is my last one. One thing about the pressure campaign is that it's involved a lot of key Black leaders who have also pointed out that the GOP redistricting in other states has ousted Black and brown leaders from their congressional seats. With the Voting Rights Act pending before the Supreme Court, protections that prevent many southern states from diluting and disenfranchising Black voters. These leaders have argued that Maryland has an ability to limit the impact of a gutted Voting Rights Act. My question is, how would you feel if Maryland did not act and southern states disenfranchised Black voters?
Well, I mean, I think we've already seen that happening with places like Texas and what's been attempted in Missouri. What is happening in the mid-cycle redistricting is horrifying, and there is an active effort to disenfranchise Black elected officials. It's unconscionable. It is unbelievable. It is not every state, like we've seen in Indiana, which had the opportunity to potentially move forward and chose not to. But what we're seeing on the whole is that Republicans at the federal level are pushing to disenfranchise minority voters. It is horrifying. And what we have to do in Maryland is protect Marylanders. And so that's why we have to analyze the law closely and make the best decisions that we can to move forward actual policies to protect minority Marylanders and all Marylanders from this lawless administration. I am very concerned with where the Supreme Court could rule in the case that Louisiana has brought for the Voting Rights Act. Unfortunately, no matter what the Supreme Court rules, that doesn't change the Maryland Constitution. And so the framework that was adopted in 21 when we had a map thrown out is based on the Maryland State Constitution. That's the specific criteria here in Maryland, the legal landscape in Maryland that is different here than in other states where the state constitutions have not been used as a guidepost for federal redistricting. And so, in passing the Voting Rights Act in Maryland for the local and state level, we are doing what we can to make sure that we protect Marylanders. And we're living in uncertain times. That's why we have to make really clear-eyed decisions about what to prioritize first.
Thank you, everyone.
To piggyback, I'm so sorry, everyone. You've all but said that the redistricting bill is dead, and I know I don't want to put words in your mouth. You referenced the Attorney General's opinion. Governor Moore has referenced the Attorney General's opinion. If you're not moving forward the bill, why not release the opinion?
It was a confidential opinion provided to the speaker, myself, and the governor. And so, we made an agreement not to release it in order to maintain its confidentiality. But it is available through each of those parties. Each of those parties has access to it. The analysis is not unique, though. The number of the legal theories are things that are written about all over. And so I would say, at the end of the day, our job is to prioritize. And that's what we have to do. And so when we're knocking on doors over the weekend, what I don't hear from constituents is about redistricting as their top priority. What I hear is concerns about how much their mortgage costs and the insurance costs that are skyrocketing, how much their energy bill is, and what are you doing to lower our utility bills. They're asking, how are we going to make sure that we're going to continue to grow when we have things like AI and a federal administration that's eviscerating federal jobs? That's the thing that Maryland families are focused most on, and that's where we're going to continue to place our energy.
One more on this issue. You've been very consistent on this for months. And
Thank you.
And it seems like you've become even more resolved as time has gone on. My question is, have we reached a point where it is no longer true to say that Maryland is considering passing a new congressional map?
I think it's been very clear that where we stand is that we're prioritizing the issues that matter most: growth, affordability, and protecting against the lawless Trump administration. At the end of the day, even if this were a realistic possibility, the window of opportunity closed months ago. And we know that to be the case because we know what prior redistricting case studies have shown, is that it takes at least 3 to 4 months for a trial level court to play out, and then whatever decision happens likely leads to an appeal. The filing deadline is next week. We are not going to wait until June to reopen a new filing deadline for new maps and new precincts and new local boards. And so the issue is that the window for opportunity is closed for 26.
So the answer is no.
I think I gave the answer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.